ladies and gentlemen, to Longbox Chronicles month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at a sci-fi comedy from 2012. That movie is Men in Black 3. Now, I will say that I have seen the previous two entries in this series, okay? I saw the first one when it first came out on VHS, and I loved it. And I have since watched the first Men in Black movie probably a good 35 times. The movie is just that fucking awesome. And I also saw the sequel. I saw the sequel in theaters, and I have yet to give it a second viewing because it sucked enough the first time around. I probably will have to give it a second viewing at some point. Now, the second one was so bad, I've been dreading going into this one. Especially since not only was the second film complete shit, but the third one here, it seems incredibly desperate by working in a plot involving time travel in a series essentially about intergalactic INS. I don't really think that working in a time travel story is going to make any level of sense. But hey, who knows? This thing actually could. It could genuinely make some level of sense, and it could genuinely be good. The only way I'm going to find out if it is any good at all, or if it's going to make any sense, or if it's even going to be better than that god-awful second one, is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Men in Black 3. You know, guys, I totally understand that they are trying really desperately to make fucking Jay's cover stories funny, but they aren't funny. Every single time he has to try to go and fill people's heads with facts after he has fucking, after he's fucking, like, neuralized them, it's not funny. It is so friggin' forced, it hurts. And if I have to deal with more of that for another, 90 minutes, on top of having a villain who sucks, mainly because the actor playing him apparently doesn't know how to act, then this movie is going to be painful. Okay. I'm not even going to ask about any of this, temporal fracture bullshit. But if Earth has always had ArcNet defenses, according to this movie, then how the hell did any other alien threat ever make it onto the planet? At what point then is Men in Black useful? How exactly then did Edgar get to Earth in the first film, or my fault, the bug posing as Edgar, get to Earth in the first film? How in the hell did the pointless shitty villain in the second film show up and try to wreak havoc? This motherfucking, ArcNet is kind of blowing holes in the entire franchise, guys, and I'm not liking it. Alright, guys, I am kind of curious now. When the hell is this story going to get, interesting? I mean, I have been waiting patiently, and I really wanted this to be good. That's why I blew $10 buying it. I was sort of hoping that the story would have been better than this, but unfortunately we're kind of stuck with a story that, at least as of this moment, kind of sucks. Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, Griffin is an incredibly irritating character. I'd really love it if Boris would just show up and kill him right now, especially since he has served his purpose and he's given this plot hole-causing net thing to our agents, so he has no... There we go! Thank you, Boris! Now kill him, please! Hold on a second here. So Boris is almost a sniper with those stupid spikes that go firing out of his hand, but he can't hit Jay from almost point-blank range? No. That is just too stupid for fucking words, guys. Well, guys, that was Men in Black 3. Let's, shut that off. Okay, well, I'm going to start by saying one thing. It's not as bad as Men in Black 2. However, a film would have to actively go out of its way to be as shitty as fucking Men in Black 2, okay? So that really isn't saying a whole lot. And, the movie, if we were to take it on its own merits and pretend that things like Austin Powers 2 and that one episode of South Park never happened, I'm going to get into details on those in just a moment, then the movie comes off as incredibly fresh. However, since we already have a comedy about somebody in the present time traveling back to 1969 in order to change the past so that way, in order to correct a change in the past so that way the present is normal again, that was all in the second Austin Powers movie. Specifically, even the go back to 1969 part. The very fact that the whole thing here just kind of the fact, guys, that Men in Black 3 almost feels like a semi-rehash of an Austin Powers film. Just feels wrong on every conceivable level. I might as well also mention the South Park connection I just sort of hinted at. There was this one episode of South Park, and it was years ago, where Garrison creates this stupid, transport, which is just basically this gigantic wheel that you sit in. And, well, South Park, of course, opted to, gross out the thing. And, at least Men in Black 3 didn't do that. However, the actual shape of the fucking thing is directly lifted from that episode of South Park. The fact that they had to lift one of the cool moments of this movie directly out of one of the shittier episodes of South Park does not feel good to me. Now, if we were to pretend, though, that Austin Powers 2 and that one shitty episode of South Park and also that Men in Black and Men in Black 2 never happened, then fine, the movie makes total sense and is awesome and should be watched by all. However, the very fact that this also the fact that this film is a major plot point, which then absolutely invalidates damn near everything that has happened in the previous two Men in Black movies, and the entire Men in Black animated series, which was based heavily on the comic books that this film franchise is birthed from, really is sort of a slap in the face. I totally understand, guys. I haven't even talked about the qualities of the movie yet, and are just bitching about minor things, but I want to get all of this done first before I dive into things like writing and acting. Because you see, one of the big plot points to this is the arc net, essentially like a safety net, which is supposed to keep aliens or pretty much almost anything else from harming Earth in any way. Which means that if the arc net's been in place for the last 40 years, then that means that the two different alien nations that were threatening to blow up Earth in the first film, if we did not give them the little fucking universe that was hanging on the cat's collar that the bug wanted, their fucking attacks wouldn't have done shit because the ArcNet would have stopped that. And the whole plot of Men in Black 2 with somebody else attempting to, kill everything in sight with another alien invasion, that also would never have happened because we have the ArcNet. So good job, whoever wrote the... Oh, look at that! I actually paused it right there on the writing credit. It is Ethan fucking Cohen. Good job. Good job there, fuckhead. You have completely invalidated all previous plots this franchise has ever had. And it's all because you had to crib notes from Austin Powers and South Park to shit forth a sequel. Good job and fuck you. Now let's talk about the movie itself. Let's actually dive into writing. When this thing is not stealing from Austin Powers wholesale, the writing is incredibly weak. Okay, I should say, it is incredibly weak except for like the last 5 minutes, which is actually kind of sort of touching and feels really out of place when the rest of the movie was this bad. So, first of all, guys, the very fact that they wanted to work time travel into the third entry in this series That to me felt, before I even went in, it kind of felt like a desperate grab at anything. But I was still hoping for something good to happen here. And the fact is that they didn't handle time fucking travel as well as other films have, you see, because, guys, when Austin Powers resorted to traveling back in time, they were kind of careful to not fuck with anything in the previous film. In fact, they actually, if there was anything that could have passed as a plot hole, they were then able to, you know, spackle it with one scene. They were totally able to fix and cover any sort of errors that they made. Same thing happened in probably the granddaddy of fucking time travel films, and that is the Back to the Future trilogy. Anything which could have led to a plot hole was quickly fixed. This thing, as I have already stated, is written entirely around this massive plot hole that basically fucks everything else in the entire series. However, if we were to look past that and we were to just look at the fact that it has to do with trying to find Boris, who is, I'm going to say right now, probably the shittiest villain out of all of them seen in the Men in Black films. But I will get more onto that in just a moment. It has to do with Boris having to travel back in time in order to kill Kay, so that way Kay doesn't capture him in Florida and send him to a prison on the moon, which apparently has been there for 40 years and was built right next to where we landed on the moon in 1969, for reasons I don't totally understand, but I'm not about to question. Just, you know, that, guys, is the whole plot. Is we have this shitty villain who wants to travel back to 1969 in order to make sure that he never goes in prison and never loses his fucking arm. And the villain is in no way threatening. The villain is in no way interesting. Boris sucks as a villain. And apparently, even though, you know, Kay had personality in the first film, in the third film, both present Kay and 1960s Kay are almost completely devoid of personality, which feels way off to me. And that, once more, is this writer not knowing what the fuck he is doing. And if anything, we should have had a slightly perkier, you know, Kay in 1969 in order for it to make sense when we run into a slightly perkier Kay in the very first film. But see, again, that is me bitching about this thing, just, you know, not caring about any previous plots or plot points or character depth or any of that other happy horse shit, and just basically deciding to write some of the worst fan fiction I think I've ever witnessed. So, our plot here is hackneyed and stupid. It's incredibly desperate because, again, this is the third film in the series, and they decided now is a good time to bring up traveling back in time. And, of course, mentioning that, well, you know, because of something that happened at some such point, yada, 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 it is completely illegal for anyone to travel forward or backward in time as per laws made by all the various, you know, like, galactic, you know, governments and all this other happy horse shit. But one random, like, junk shop in Brooklyn just happens to have, one of the few time travel devices left in the world. I'm not about to question that either, because that honestly is kind of a common thing in all of the films. It would make sense if it would make sense if one of these, it wouldn't make sense if one of these junk shops didn't have an ultra rare piece of alien tech. Anyway, our writing here is just awful from start until almost finish. Again, like the last 6 minutes or so, really touching, and it was a really nice way to close out the movie. Unfortunately, that is the last 6 minutes in a movie that runs an hour and 45. That means that we have an hour and 40 minutes, roughly, of shit before we get to it. Now, while I could probably talk even more about writing and about how much the writing here is hackneyed and stupid and cliche and shit, the acting here is, for the most part, really solid. The only member of the cast I'm going to take to task is whoever the fuck was underneath all of that makeup and playing as Boris. I don't know who in the hell that person is. I don't care. Whoever in the hell they are, they cannot act. They can't. They put no effort into playing as this as this evil alien serial killing hitman, and his awful performance brings everything down, especially the scene when he has to talk to himself. When future Boris, or rather when President Boris and 1969 Boris start talking, that scene brings the film to a dead stop because we have somebody who cannot act and is turning in the worst showing in the entire film, having to talk to himself. So we have shitty acting talking to shitty acting, and the scene serves no purpose outside of past and present Boris-I meeting, and it doesn't fucking work. It really, to me, guys, it killed any kind of it killed any sort of momentum the movie had building, and it did have a little bit up to that point, and then it just kind of fizzled, and I was really expecting better, guys. I genuinely was, because I liked the first Men in Black movie. I thought that it was great. But the writing here and that one lone bit of horrible acting killed everything else here. Because, guys, you know what? Special effects here are still fantastic and are still on par with the awesome things we saw in the first two films in terms of special effects. And the camera work is great, and the sets look awesome. Everything here worked except for this lazy, shitty script and this one talent-challenged actor. And really, guys, all of that ultimately it all boils down, when all is said and done, to me not being able to recommend this. Okay, this movie could have tried to reach the lofty heights of the first film, and instead it's just barely better than the second. However, once more, being better than Men in Black 2 is not a fucking challenge. The one thing that sucks the most about this is I pissed away $10 on this fucking thing, hoping for it. Hoping and praying beyond all hope and prayer that it was going to be good. And it wound up being a massive fucking letdown. And there's no way in hell this fucking thing is staying in my Blu-ray collection one more goddamn day. This movie is a piece of shit, and I cannot recommend it to anybody. Now, I will say that if you somehow, some way found something good in Men in Black 2 and you genuinely enjoy that movie, then go right ahead and watch this because it's slightly better. However, since I have already stated I was not a fan of Men in Black 2, and that to me was already the low point, and this thing is just barely above that, I cannot recommend this, and there's no way in hell I'm going to sit down and watch it and watch it a second time. Now, luckily I do have the first Men in Black on Blu-ray. And I'm going to watch that after I watch my Blu-ray of Austin Powers 2, so that way I can be seen how a comedy about somebody traveling back to 1969 is supposed to be fucking done. Anyway, guys, with that we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.